Metric have just released their 8th album, Formentera. And we have 2 of Metric's prime movers with us to take you through the new record. Here are James Shaw and Emily Haines to tell us how they give the people what they don't want. So why, what, and where is Formentera?
Well, we had actually in the studio, we had this book that was one of those dream destinations books of like paradise places that you could go. And, you know, a couple years into lockdown in a Canadian winter where I had the unpleasant revelation that every year actually has 2 winters, which somehow I had managed to miss up until that point. We were really, as much as we felt so grateful to be able to work and we had the great studio and everything, you know, we couldn't play, we couldn't get our band across the border. We were feeling so much sadness and grief for everything that was happening in the world.
Right.
And really starting to lose it a little. So this book that we had, the Dream Destinations, we were like, let's just try today opening this to some random page and make that the kind of, you know, escape in our minds and see if that helps the mood here. Right. And the page that we turned to was Formentera, which is a place I've actually been in reality.
In reality.
I think I prefer the imaginary one that we created now, though. It is a pristine island in the Mediterranean, off Ibiza, off the coast of Spain. And we just that day composed the song that ended up being the heart of the album. And this whole kind of concept came together of creating an escape for yourself and recognizing how little you actually have control over. We had this expression of the illusion of control, right, that I think a lot of us, you know, kind of reckoned with in the last couple of years of realizing actually maybe it was truly an illusion. And once you get past the anxiety and fear of it, that there is actually a sense of freedom in letting go of that. So that's what we were trying to create for the listener with that song and that place. Gotcha.
Well, thank you for that. And of course, the album begins with a 10-minute plus track. It's like a dare almost. We dare you to throw down this track. If you can make it through here, you can make it through anything.
Lining up all the numbers under the names. Lining up all the numbers under the names. Notify the next of kin of the circumstances. Was it an act of God or an accident? Act of God or an accident?
Was there much discussion about that choice?
Oh, there was a ton of discussion about that choice. I mean, the song, when we were making the song, we didn't set out to do what we did. We didn't think to ourselves, okay, let's write like a 4-song in one 10.5-minute epic. That goes from like a Berlin rave to a rock show in Manchester. You know, it was like we had this piece of music that me and this guy Liam had composed with a lot of synthesizers and, you know, it's electronic, and we played it for Emily, and she wrote some amazing lyrics and melodies to the front half of the song. You know, we walked into the studio one day and she's like, I think I got it. Let me just go at it without talking too much, and laid down this amazing vocal for pretty much the whole first 6 minutes of the song in like, you know, 1 or 2 takes. And that ended up being the actual vocal that's on the record. And then we kind of realized, or Emily had this idea of sort of, it was a bit of a stark feeling just from that piece of music. So she wanted to add this sort of other piece and came in with this piano, you know, idea where the lyrics are a bit more sort of like a bit more of like a hug and a bit more explanatory and a bit more like, you know, trying to get you to go through the emotions as opposed to suppress them. And then we sort of figured that wasn't even enough, and we needed this like giant sort of sonic hug at the end to really feel like it's okay that you just listen to 9 minutes of music. The last minute and a half are going to just, you know, put you in a giant bed of guitars. And once we could have had this piece of music, which was pretty early on in the process, it definitely, you know, became sort of like a marker for where we were going to try and get with the rest of the record. Once we knew we had it, became this sort of like elephant in the room. We're like, what are you going to do with it? You know, like you can't really put it in the middle of the record because it just draws this huge divide between front
Right.
half and back half. We didn't want to end with it because it's too good, you know. And then we were kind of like, I think the only way forward with maybe the most bold piece of music that we've written in our 250-year career, then let's just get to it right off the bat. Let's just give the people what they want or what they don't want.
Right. Very cool. Now you mentioned Liam. He's Liam O'Neill, correct? So is he seems to be a major creative force in this record as well. So how does he work into things?
Well, he's been a collaborator and part of the Metric family for like a long time. There was a sort of a classic moment in 2010, or I think it was 10, when we were just working on Synthetica. He was still in the band The Stills in Montreal.
Right.
And he was in Toronto for like over the Christmas holidays, and there was a big party at my house, and Emily came up to me and she was like, I think we should ask Liam to stay for like a couple of days to work on the record with us. And I was like, I can't think about this right now. And then 2 minutes later, Liam came up to me and said, hey, Emily asked me to stay and work on the record. That's great, I'll stay. So he had a plan to stay for 5 days, and he stayed in Toronto for 5 years and never really went back, and became a pretty important part of the Metric writing, recording experience. He was a big part of the production on Synthetica. And me and him have just sort of like nerded out and tweaked out on synthesizers for the last 10 years. And
there you go.
And so in about 2019 or something, me and him were just kind of hanging out in what's now our old studio and making all this electronic music. And then that stuff became sort of a key ingredient to what Formentera became.
Gotcha. So after 10 minutes of doom scrolling, we come to all the next track is All Comes Crashing, which Emily, I believe you wrote kind of near the end of the making of the record. Tell me how that came about and why that seemed to be the obvious thing to follow doom scrolling.
For all I know, this might be my last night. That's how it goes. There's no one I would rather be lying beside. It all comes crashing.
It was a piece that came later, and I spent a lot of time at the piano, and this was one where we had a lot of the pieces. We had a lot of material, and it's hard to describe. I felt very single-minded about like that I needed to write something that was the missing piece, and I presented a few songs to Jimmy of what I thought were contenders for this missing piece.
Right.
And he immediately responded really strongly to All Comes Crashing, even though it was just like a really crappy recording of it's literally just vocal and piano. And he was like, that is it. And so that one is one that was pretty much as is. And these guys, pulled together the sonic palette around it. And then in a kind of amazing twist, Jimmy had struck up a friendship with Stuart White, who is like Beyonce's guy.
Okay.
And, like drives around with a microphone in his car, legend has it, so that anytime she ever needs him, he's got a microphone. But they struck up a friendship, and it was really just like a Hail Mary of like, we have Gus Van Gogh mixing, we have Tony Hoffer mixing. We're happy with what we've got, but we were like, maybe we'll just reach out. And we were so fortunate that Stuart came on board and mixed All Comes Crashing. And then we were, once he did that, we were like, no way, you really elevated this in a way that I can't quite articulate. Any chance you want to take a look at another song? And he was like, sure. And we kind of just snuck it by him that it was a 10-minute song. So he also mixed Doom Scroller.
Oh, great.
So that top of the record, there's just like a sort of extra, I love all the mixes on the record, but there's something in there that really created a cohesion for the top of the album, I feel. And All Comes Crashing is really like, lyrically, it's my obsession with the idea that like conventional romantic love gets way too much airtime, and all the different kinds of love, the love that you feel for your friends, that you feel for your family, like, the non-traditional life. That's really, what that song is about, is like, who are your people? Maybe it is a conventional, romantic relationship, but for a lot of us, it's your best friend since you were 15 or whoever else. So that song is really dedicated to whoever those people are in your life.
And that theme kind of shows up again in Paths in the Sky, doesn't it?
Busted, totally. It's basically my favorite song to write is that. Like, I love you, man, is like my main point as a writer.
Cool. So does a narrative form over time when you're writing these songs and you realize what it is, or do you go in knowing what you want to write about and what you want the album to be about?
Yeah, I wish that I felt more in control of what I write. And Jimmy, bless him, 20 years in, the dynamic of you need an editor, and thankfully Jimmy's patient with and interested in the stuff that I present. But I think you'd agree, Jimmy, like I'm sometimes I walk in and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know why I wrote this. I don't know why, like I'm writing like an eco like warrior anthem, with minor chords, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell anyone's supposed to do with this, but we've done such interesting work, I feel, as a result of being open-minded and giving like listeners the benefit of the doubt that people can actually handle more than we, people, I feel like people are so insecure. It's like, give people something they don't want. Maybe they'll like it, so I feel fortunate when I, show up with the stuff that Jimmy can help, kind of rein it in or shape it with me. But no, I generally just go to the piano. It's very meditative and weird. And I kind of find out later what I was trying to say. It's a very strange process.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when we were putting the album together nearing the end, there was a few nights where it's like most of it was done and we were really just kind of dealing with the topic of sequencing, and once we decided to lead with Doom Scroller, we kind of wrote out like a rough sequence and we listened to it from top to bottom. And then I remember walking into the backyard of the studio and thinking, wow, there's a narrative here that I never saw before, and it's that it's sort of a mirroring of the experience of the last 2 years. The record really starts in a huge amount of stress and anxiety and turmoil and fear, and then when Formentera comes in and the orchestra kind of brings you to this like imaginary place, and you sort of bear witness to Emily like letting go of expectations of the illusion of control, and after that moment the record really just kind of opens up into this really freeing feeling, which I think when we were sequencing it in January 2022, 7 months ago, we felt like was gonna be the feeling now. It turns out it's not totally the feeling now. But it's okay. We're trying to like manifest a reality in the world. So
what is the feeling now? How are things?
That's a good question, man.
Yeah, it's so strange because that was really a preoccupation. If there was anything that I was trying to, sort of steer in terms of the mood and the spirit of what we made, is we were like, this has to be this celebratory soundtrack for all of us getting back together, like, and the idea in Doom Scroller that you do overcome that, like you take something for the pain, not to conceal it, to magnify it so you can genuinely be free of it, right? Like, this is, we're not joking around here. This is serious. Like, we need this. And I feel like people really need this. And then it's been very disconcerting to, particularly for me, because I think I'm really noticing again and more harshly lately that, like, for better or worse, I just think I'm still just very naive about the world. And I think it allows me to keep going and keep writing. But I do get pretty crushed where it's like, it's just sort of sad. I genuinely thought there was going to be like the whole world learn so much, and like we're all connected in this way that we see deeper, and there's like this like transcendent moment of evolution that happens. And I think maybe that's coming, but the reality is, in fact, I feel that we've come out of this time more polarized, more more lonely, more isolated, and more focused on our differences than ever. And it's been a bit like, we came out very like, guys, like, let's do this. And, you know, we haven't even started touring yet. And I'm already a little like, whoa, I got to change my frequency, get a little lower and accept that, like, this is not that euphoric moment, probably.
For some reason, as you're saying that, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Totally.
Passing through my head.
a little bit. And you know what? There's a book that I really want to pick up just because I love the title. I was reading about it yesterday, Toxic Positivity.
Right.
Because I really think that's a key distinction. And we talk about it internally all the time of like, you know, because we live our lives together, this band, it's been over 20 years. And, you know, there's a culture in our reality and how we approach things. And really the distinction between being someone who's constantly spinning things or glossing things over, looking on the bright side or silver lining bullshit. It's like, that's actually like a really like unhelpful and unwelcome approach. But when you're genuinely trying to generate optimism, energy, motivation, you know, like determination, all those genuine, authentic things, it's really like a fine line. So we're always paying attention to that distinction, you know, and being like, there's a difference. And this record is not saying like, hey man, like, let's teach the world to sing, like everything's okay. It's like, it's more saying like, let's just be real with how not okay it is.
Right.
You know, and try to still have a good time.
Still have a good time. And unfortunately, our time is about to end. Thank you. I'm just briefly, if you can just tell me, how's the reaction been? The record's been out a couple of weeks now. So have you been getting fans interacting and coming up with stuff that makes it feel all worthwhile?
Yeah, that's actually it's been quite amazing. And, you know, it does definitely feel like the squeezing out of the middle that's happening sort of globally, you know, that it's like, it's really kind of reaffirming to see that there's a lot of people that don't just need, like, nothing against Beyonce, but just only need Beyonce, you know? And we found there's a lot of people we're doing interviews with, podcasts with, fan comments, you know, that are like, people really need the stuff that's just coming from other people and not coming from, like, you know, drop down from the heavens for, you know, the people to scrounge around in. And it's been really a really wonderful experience so far to just sort of see that this music has a place in the world, and the you know, the amount of hard work that we put into this stuff resonates with people, and it's really been great.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing all that with me. Hopefully we'll get to see you down here again sometime soon.
Like I said, that's it's on you now.
Yeah, I know. All right, I'll take the full responsibility for it. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Good luck with everything. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Marty.
Hey, bye-bye.